Hello and welcome to the Daves I Know. That's Dave Cox.
That's Dave Woodard.
And that's Sam McBride. We got our buddy Sammytown from the band Fang on our episode this week. I'm super stoked to have him here. Old friend of mine. I was just telling Dave when we met, actually, at San Diego.
San Diego was the somebody just posted a picture from that show.
My buddy Bo, him and his wife Carla were there, and I knew them from Dallas.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I knew them from Dallas, and I saw that, I was like, what the fuck are you guys doing here? Like, and they're like, oh yeah, we live here now, and he's actually got several cool pictures from that show.
He's a good photographer too. He gets good shots at all those shows.
Yeah, he's really good. He actually just recently quit drinking too.
He did, yeah.
Yes, which is good.
Yeah, it is good.
Speaking of, ironically, that was the first night I drank.
Yes, I remember that. No, well, I don't remember that. I remember that because you told me that later.
Yeah,
I didn't know. I just met you. I mean, we hit it off pretty good right then.
Yes.
But
well, did you tell him the lineup too? That was like you just like rolled in with this insane all-star lineup band. You know, it's like
with Billy Club.
Yeah, I'm like, who the fuck are you fucking kidding me?
I know. Tell me about it. So what I told him, I was telling him when we were on that tour, I picked up the itinerary and I was like, we're playing with Fang? I was like, where are you playing with Fang? I was like, that motherfucker's in prison. And they're like, no, he's out and doing Fang again. And I was super stoked. I'd always been a fan in the 80s. I saw you guys in 88 in Tampa when I lived there. That's when the skinheads wanted to beat you up because you had long hair.
Tampa was known as a very dangerous place.
Oh, it definitely was. I fucking lived there. Like, it was pretty. Yeah. But I remember you pulled up, and I think Tony went and talked to you, my buddy Tony Patino, that you know very well as well.
Yes.
And he was like, "Oh man, these guys they want to beat you up." Because you're like, "Why?" Because your hair's long. Because my fucking hair is long. Like, oh, the 80s.
But somehow it worked out. I don't know. I don't remember how. You know, obviously I didn't get jumped that night, which apparently the week before COC had gotten jumped. I think.
Yeah, they got their.
I can see that. They're from my part of the world too.
Yeah, from the Raleigh, North Carolina.
Yeah.
No, bunch of like. They tried to tip
also
over
had
their
long
van.
hair.
No shit, really?
They tried to. A bunch of skinheads tried to tip over their van. And years later, like Mike Dean explained to me why, because he like pissed on the side of the stage and hit a couple skinhead dudes.
Oh, had a little oversplash.
Yeah, a little oversplash, you know. And I watched like 15 to 17 dudes try to tip over a van, which they did not.
They didn't make it.
So it takes more than that number of people to do.
Yeah, and everyone just laughed, but they ended up trashing their van. But that's kind of shit that happened back then quite a bit, actually.
And I also remember there was two crazy things that happened that night. I went home with Jen from Jenna Torturers.
Jesus Christ!
and this was long before she was in, or
no.
Before,
did they play that night, or was that?
No, this was before Jenna Torturers existed.
Okay.
You know, so she was, you know, I don't know, she was probably like 19 or 20 at the time, and also we were going to the after party with Jen, and we were, you know, I don't know whose after party or where, we were driving down this road, and we were all drunk, you know, and we were all fucked up, and I'm sure we probably had drugs with us, but we're going on this long road out in the middle of nowhere, and there's a car, you know, like maybe quarter of a mile ahead that's on the same road, and whoever was in that car, they just like went off the road and went crashing down the hillside.
They also were drunk and had drugs.
Yeah, they were also better drugs, apparently.
I'm just assuming.
Yeah, apparently they had better drugs than we had. And so we pulled over, looked, and they were like way down the fucking ravine. And, and you know, we're in the middle of nowhere. Like, what the fuck do we do? There's like no one else around. So we said, fuck it. We kept driving and we went to the house, and then somebody ran in and said, hey, you know, people are down in the ravine on this free highway
Quick,
in the middle of
get
fucking
their drugs.
nowhere. Yeah. Look, if it hadn't been, if I had some rope and I could have rappelled down there,
course,
I mean, I would have saved the drugs. Yeah, I would have saved the drugs, but yeah, I was out of rope at the time.
Yeah, those are crazy fucking times, man. But yeah, when I mentioned San Diego, that was I think 97. I think it was 97.
It's 97 or 98. Yeah,
probably 98.
Right around into 97, maybe beginning of 98. Because we'd already been playing for a while. It's probably 98 because Jim Martin was playing in the band.
That's right. Which also tripped me the fuck out.
Yeah, it's like,
because I ran up to you. You were still a little standoffish a little bit. I mean, you just got out of the joint not too long ago. You were a little, I'm sure, because I had heard, like, I remember I heard when you guys opened up for the Dwarves in San Francisco that they were calling the club throwing death threats.
Yeah, they had like 10 death threats called into the club, and Jorge, the promoter, like as soon as I walked in or pulled me aside, he's like, "Bro," he's like, "We've had like 10 death threats called in today. Like, what do you want to do?" And I'm like, "Well, I want to get a shirt and put a target on my shirt, so that way nobody else catches a stray slug if somebody starts popping. They." I don't want any of these other guys to catch a stray. It's like, make sure they hit me.
What ended up happening that night? I'm kind of curious. I
you know what? Nothing happened. You know, I mean, it was a great show, a lot of fun. But I was definitely hyper vigilant, one might say.
Sure. It's a good
yeah. I was. I mean, I had been hyper vigilant for a long time, so I had plenty of experience.
Yeah,
so I've heard.
So yeah, but yeah, that night I was maybe even cranked it up a bit, and we actually we didn't have any trouble other than called in threats and I mean, honestly, there's only been one incident where somebody a couple incidents, and one of them we were playing in this was, I don't know, maybe 8 years ago. We were playing in a club outside of Seattle, and the bartender I gone up and asked for a bottle of water, and she really she just gave me a really hard look, and I'm like, okay, I'm not trying to cause any problem, and so nothing really happened, but she did come up to me at the end of the night and she goes, when I heard you guys were playing here, I told the promoter that I didn't want you guys playing here, and if you guys did play here, I didn't want to work the show. Wow. She goes, and she goes, but we were shorthanded and I had to come work the show, and she goes, I've been here all night, I've talked to a bunch of people that have talked to me in depth about you and things that have happened, in the past and where you're at now. And I watched the band play, and she goes, I don't feel the same way I did when you walked in the door.
Yeah. Do you? That's awesome.
Yeah. And that was probably, somebody who right up front was like, but I'm glad she at least listened, and sat there and stayed, and walked away with a different opinion.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, has that happened a couple times in your since you've been out, since you got out? Or
that was more severe. Okay. But we have, I mean, certainly we've had people. More, what's happened is people, we've had people call in to clubs, and things like that, and I get that, it's like, I totally understand where that comes from, it's not, for me, I would always like to talk to somebody. Yeah. It's like, I get that people have issues with me. It's like, let's talk about it.
Sure.
You think it's worse now with the internet outrage mob that can seem to gather in a few seconds, and then a bunch of people get all fired up in no time?
I mean, surprisingly, I that hasn't been the case. I kind of expect that on the regular, and it really hasn't happened. I think it's been a long time. Yeah. And a lot of people know at this point that I'm, so far from the person,
Sure.
that did that in 1989. That I think it, I really haven't had that happen.
That's good. I like hearing that. 'Cause when I met you, it's like that's not the first thing I thought about. Because I was always a fan of the band Fang in the 80s. Like, and one of the reasons why I did love the band is because you guys, even though you guys had faster songs, stuff like that, you guys played like more this like sleazy kind of drunk rock, kind of like not, you know what I mean? It wasn't like, pop, 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 like MDC, like everything's just super fast. Like you guys had super sleazy, creepy songs, and I loved that. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't like the same record over and over again. So I want to touch base a little bit on Fang as the band. How old were you when you joined that band?
15. I was 15 when I joined Fang.
And that wasn't the
Fang,
first band you were in either, right?
No, it was Fang was the third band I was in. I was in a band called Reign of Terror when I was 14,
Great
and
band.
also a band Shut Up.
Shut Up, okay.
And Reign of Terror, we were a garage band in that we only ever played in the garage and we never played a show. But
Some of the best shows ever in a garage, dude. Come on, think about it.
That's true.
Yeah.
My favorite shows on that one tour was the Kentucky Garage we played for Tony Patino. He put that on. Speaking of Tony,
dude. Yeah,
great,
dude.
Great
Shit,
Kentucky Garage show.
Fang just played Maui not too long ago, and you guys played
Dude,
at
that
a fucking
was
pool party.
A pool party.
It looked like an 80s fucking teen movie.
Oh my god, that was the most fun that was the most fun I've had playing a fucking show.
I've seen the video.
Probably since the 80s. That was insane.
I saw the video and I could fucking tell. It literally looked like an 80s teen fucking movie, dude. It was insane.
And here's the irony about that. You talk about people that have, issues with me. That show was set up to be at a club that happened to be like on a golf course.
Okay.
And somebody got word, and found out the history about my history, and they started making complaints.
Wow.
And so the club owner turned around and came back on the promoter, and the promoter had warned them up front, like, look, this is the deal, this is the band, da-da-da. And they said, no problem. So when the club owner started coming back to the promoter, he's a great friend of mine, Max. He plays in the band Pilau from Maui. When he came back at Max, it's like, you know what, fuck you. I'm not even fucking dealing with, I'm not dealing with your bullshit. And so he moved it. He started calling around, and they found, the pool, and that was probably 1,000 times better.
Yeah, man.
Where it was than if we'd played at some, club, on the fucking golf course. It's like,
oh, how pretentious,
right?
Yacht rock radio.
Play some polo before you go on stage.
Right. So whoever that person was that complained did us a huge favor. Thank you very much. We appreciate you.
Very, very good. I was kind of, because I love going to Hawaii. I've only been to Maui once because I go there for the tattoo conventions. But it's like, and I love that island, Maui. It's great. But God, I would have loved to have seen Fang in Maui. that was great, man.
That was totally off the hook.
So how old were you when you recorded Land Shark?
So I was 16, I think. And it came out when I was 17. Is that right? 83. So it came out. So we recorded the songs for Not So Quiet on the Western Front.
Yeah, Fun with Acid.
And, right. And we did like 5 songs, and Tim Yohannan picked one. He picked Fun with Acid. And that came out in 82. And
right.
So I turned 17 in 82. So I guess we recorded that when I was 16. It came out when I was 17. We recorded Land Shark when I was 17, and it came out when I was 17 or maybe 18.
Right.
Because I turned 18 in 83. Had I gone to high school, I would have graduated high school in 83.
Yeah, I could say that too. I quit. I
Yeah.
was supposed to graduate in 90, quit in 90. So, did you guys tour like immediately after putting out records? I mean, I know punk rock touring wasn't like as lucrative as it can be now, but did you guys hit the road pretty
rock
quick?
touring is not lucrative now, Dave.
I know. That was a joke.
Maybe, okay, I was going to say, wait a minute.
Unless you're like, no facts, but
well, yes. So, yes, I mean, pretty much as soon as Landshark came out, we hit the road. And we had, been playing out, in California, in Greater California, Sacramento, LA, but it wasn't until Landshark came out. And then we hit the road. And back then, when we would tour, we did, we would go out on the road for like 3 months.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, I think one tour we did was, I think, like 5-month tour. We were out on the road that
the van
long.
would hold up?
And no, it'd break down. We'd get it fixed. It'd break down. We'd get it fixed. We'd call somebody, beg for money.
Right, just because we are cool. Give us money. Is that where that term came from?
And it was a lot fucking harder then too, because you couldn't post a video on social media and go, "Our van's broken down in Albuquerque. We need $3,000." It was hard enough trying to book a fucking tour back then. Word of mouth. And does anyone know anyone in Columbus? Does anyone know anybody here? And it was just so different.
It was, but it was also, I almost want to say, I mean, part of it was, we didn't care where we slept. We didn't, it was, we ate top ramen a lot, we were stuck in Ohio. And I mean, I was like spare changing for food and beer, I mean, that was, but people also like took care of you.
Yeah. It was,
like
I didn't start going to punk rock shows until like 86. I think the Black Flag was the first show I saw. This is when I lived in Tampa, which there was like a full-on riot at the show. That's when their roadie got hit over the head with a hammer. It was at the Cuban Club. A really cool old club back then. I was like 13. I was just like, what the fuck is going on? Like, I just wanted to come see Black Flag, and they're not even playing the songs I want them to play. They were this is back when, like, I mean, it's funny because, you're supposed to be punk rock and very open-minded, but punk rockers at a certain point in the mid-80s were very close-minded about the music.
Oh, yeah.
That's true.
I mean, very close-minded about the music. It wasn't a million miles an hour. You weren't playing shit off the first 2 albums. They didn't want to fucking hear it,
Right.
And I remember Black Flag guys catching music.
And it had to be hardcore punk rock.
It had to be hardcore punk. I mean, it had to be.
I stopped listening to any other kind of music, probably like 1980. I stopped, and then even got even more, because punk rock in 79, even in 80, it was still Susie and the Banshees, Generation X. Even Joy Division, those were considered punk rock bands.
Like something that was different than the mainstream, I'd imagine.
Right.
Just something different, right?
Did you have a gateway band, like you were listening to other types of music, and then there's a certain band or a certain song you heard or a show?
For me it was the Sex Pistols.
Okay.
That was
You traveled to London, right? You saw them there,
right? Well, I saw them in San Francisco right before I
right.
left to go to London, and that was kind of just a fluke. My cousin, who's much older than me, had mentioned something about them to my dad. And then my dad was watching the news. We always, sat down and watched the news, as a group. That
when
was
it wasn't 24/7.
Yeah, it was like, the news was on, and it was the local news, and they were talking about the Sex Pistols were coming.
Wow.
And I had already, Chris, my cousin, had talked about them, and for some reason I'm like, I'm going. I'm fucking, I didn't know. I listened at that time to like disco and soul and R&B, and even rock. I listened to Kiss, but I was not into rock and roll. I was into like straight R&B, soul, and disco.
It's so good.
And it's the East Bay too. There was a lot. That was like what was happening.
Right.
But something I think I always kind of looked up to my cousin, and so and I think I think he had gone and seen them when they played in Dallas. He was from Springfield, Missouri, but I think he might have. I can't remember for sure. But anyway, I was like, I'm going, and it was. I actually was just writing about this because I started writing not too long ago. But it was. It was terrifying. I was 12.
You also had heard like punk rock was like these guys are going to cut you with razors and they're spitting on the crowd.
I had no fucking idea. I just like, and it was the most exciting, bizarre, terrifying experience of my 12-year-old life.
Yeah.
But such a game changer. Mainly, I think a lot of it had to do with the band. It also, a lot of it had to do with this guy Denz, and he was this older. He was probably like 20 or maybe 19. Yeah. I don't know how old Denz was. He was older than me. I was 12. Everybody seemed old,
Yeah.
But he immediately he was like a Sid clone, black leather jacket, spiked black hair, and he just like fucking took me under his wing that night, for whatever reason, and so that was a huge game changer. And then we actually, I think within a week we left to go to the UK we moved to Wales. And while I was living in Wales, my buddy there, he came home. We went to his house after school, and he had the Nevermind the Bollocks record.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, "You got to hear this." And I'm like, "Oh, and we listened to that record over and over and over and over
great record.
and over again. It's a fucking great record.
It's a great record. I
still
hold it up there, man. It's
still one of my favorite records of all times.
I think so. Yeah,
I do.
For me, I think I was 15 maybe, and so I'm 55 now, so this would have been like 83 or something like that, 84. And I listened to like big giant progressive rock before, like Rush and Triumph and stuff like that. And in the same summer, I remember it was in June of that summer. At the beginning of June, I went and saw Rush at this big Coliseum with 12,000 people. And then 3 weeks later, a friend of mine's like, "Man, we got it. There's these two bands from California." Or from out west, it's Circle Jerks and 7 Seconds. Like, I don't know who the fuck that is. And they're like, "Just come with us anyway." So it was a couple guys that were like 2 or 3 years older than me. And just weeks after seeing Rush, I got dragged to a Circle Jerks 7 Seconds show in a warehouse. And I was like, this is my people.
Yeah.
Where was that? What city?
It was in Norfolk, Virginia.
Okay, yeah. Dude, what fucking 7 Seconds and Circle Jerks in Norfolk, Virginia warehouse. That was the shit.
Yeah,
that was fucking awesome.
I remember that as well. Like just being able to because like I said, I'm 51, so I started going to shows around 86, Black Flag, and I think the next weekend. This was when there was like a show every other fucking weekend. So like the next show was like MDC. The next weekend was like Bad Brains. It was just such a great time period back then. For me growing up in the hardcore, being a skateboarder and just getting into hardcore punk and everything like that. And it was really cool because I remember going back because I was in middle school, and there was probably maybe 5 or 6 other punk rock people in school, but they didn't really go to shows. So I think when you went to shows, that was a different perspective on the whole scene. You know what I mean? Oh yeah, I listened to this, I have this compilation, but when you actually had to brave to go and possibly get your ass beat at a show, it was very different. And then coming back on the weekends. Oops, hang on, the video went out. All right, we're good. We there? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. It paused for a minute. We'll edit all that shit out. This man's the man.
We being
But the imperial we.
The imperial. Right. But I remember you felt kind of I remember going back to school Monday and people "Oh, did you not go to the game or the dance this weekend?" I'm like, "No, I went and saw Agnostic Front in GBH." So what the fuck is Agnostic Front in GBH? You wouldn't have handled it, man. It was heavy. You know what I mean? It was this was in Tampa, Florida, and it was extremely violent back then. All the shows were. Fuck. So I remember seeing Butthole Surfers in '87, and Tanya. You remember Tanya, right? You knew her. I think you knew her from Philadelphia. She lives here now. I knew her in Tampa. She knew me when I was 14. I watched her get her face kicked in by Paul Leary. from the stage. Yeah. And then her boyfriend and like 20 other fucking dudes jumped on stage, and it was just mayhem. But that was kind of like, oh, again, this is happening again. Let's go before the cops get here. You know, like, because when the cops showed up, they were just swinging. They didn't give a shit who they were.
Cops did not care who they hit. Yeah.
I had heard very notorious stories about like L.A. like Golden Voice shows and stuff like that. About just, you know, a lot of Black Flag shows I heard would just turn into like
there was a lot of violence around them,
just straight on riots and stuff.
Yeah, we never really had we never really had problems like LA had in Northern California.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. The shows weren't as big.
Sure.
Either, you know, like the Olympic Auditorium shows were huge, and you know, the numbers. LA was so spread out. There's so many cities that you know everyone would come out.
Yeah, you had all
an Olympic Auditorium
crazy surfer dudes coming out from like Orange County and like all the beach towns and stuff like that. But you know what's great though is like with YouTube now, it's like you can actually people saved those videos. And you can go and like you could watch these. There's some old Fang shows on there from like 86, 85.
Fucking
like,
blows me away every once in a while. Like something, I'm like, where the fuck? Like, I don't even know that there was who had a camera.
Who had a camera? Who was the nerd that showed up with a camera?
Yeah, I found that 7-second circle jerk show on YouTube a couple of years ago, and just spent an hour and a half looking for myself.
I know I'm in there.
I was there.
I'm in there. So there.
That's awesome, man. That's great. When you when you did moving on with the albums, when you did Where the Wild Things Are, did you guys record that pretty quickly after Land Shark? Or was that?
Yeah, because it came out a year later. So,
okay, yeah.
I mean, usually things took a while. So we recorded in 82. Land Shark came out in 83. And then we recorded in 83. And Where the Wild Things came out in 84.
Yeah.
And then we toured. We went on another, 4-month, tour when Where the Wild Things came out. And then things were already problematic, I think. Tom Flynn, amazing guitar player. Yeah. He wasn't like me. Let me put it that way. Like,
you don't say, Sammy.
I had started doing crime and drugs and everything when I was like 12, 13. Right. I was on felony probation at 13 years old. Already been to juvenile hall. Jeez. And Tom was far more reserved. Yeah. Tom partied, but I think so. But when we came back from that tour, he had I was 17 or maybe 8. I was like 18 or 9. Anyway, my girlfriend, who was 10 years older than me and was, we were dealing drugs together, was living in his apartment, and he just came home and it was just like a gnarly drug dealing junkie den. And it was,
he wasn't expecting that when he walked through the door, right? Or...
Well, I mean, we'd been playing music together for years at that point, so it wasn't a huge surprise. But I think just the, I'd gone to jail a number of times on tour, and I'd OD'd in New York, and like this old Puerto Rican woman fucking like gave me adrenaline in my heart and fucking, saved my life. And I think it was just a little much for Tom.
Please tell me you're writing a fucking book.
No,
please, Sammy, you got to write a book, dude.
No, I've started. I'm doing it.
Finally, I've been telling you this shit for years.
I finally started doing it. That's one of the reasons I'm going to Columbia to just like sequester myself, and I've got 25,000 words so far. So I'm definitely I started doing it. I'm writing every day.
That's good.
So But it's going to be a couple of years.
Oh no! You've got a lot of shit to write.
So, yeah, but at any rate, Tom, he was just he'd been on the circus ride for a couple of years, and I think he was just like, okay, this is too much. For me, and so that's when he quit the band.
Right. Did you reform? Did you get more players in? Because I knew you moved to Germany. That's when you did Spun Helga.
Right.
Would you ever heard that album, Spun Helga? It's totally crazy.
It's
one of my. I love it, but it's such a weird departure from like Fang, except for Tits and Oi. That song is literally my favorite Fang song. I love that song.
I mean,
I do. I fucking love it.
That's so. What happened? So Tom. Well, it was Tom's band.
Yeah.
So he like disbanded the band. It wasn't like he like quit necessarily. He goes, I'm breaking up the band, so to speak. I'm not going to do this anymore. And so, I don't know. A couple months went by, and I tried a couple other things. I was like, well, maybe I'll like go to school, or maybe I'll do this. And a couple months ago, I'm like, no, fuck this. So I went back to Tom and I said, look, I don't want to stop. I want to keep doing Fang.
Right.
And I talked to Chris Wilson, the bass player, who also, he didn't want it to break up either. And so Chris, he said he was in, and Tim Stiletto, the drummer, also at that time, he didn't want to stop. So I went to Tom. I said, hey, what if we kept going without you? And Tom was like, that's fine. Go ahead. He said, you have my blessing. Run with it. So we started playing again. We started bringing in other guitar players. And then I decided I wanted to go to Europe and like move the band to Europe. And so I told the guys in the band, I'm like, look, at the time I was selling acid. I'd put, had a lot of contacts all over the U.S. already. So I was doing a lot of mail order acid business and doing some flights and running acid. And so I was making good money doing that. I was also doing some construction work. So I was making good money.
Right.
I told the guys in the band, I said, look, let's move to Europe, and I said, I give everybody 3 months, get your plane ticket together. And once we get there, I'm banking money. I'll take care of us until we get on our feet. And the only one who got it together was, at that time, Chris Wilson he quit, got fired, kind of. So we had this other bass player, Joe Miller. Mm-hmm. And so the only one who got it together to go was Joe Miller. And so I was like, fuck you guys, we're just going to go. Right. And we flew to England. And so it was 1985. Flew to England, found there was a band called The Stupids from England.
I know you're talking about. Yeah,
Tommy Stupid was playing drums for us, and we found this kid Matt, and he was playing guitar. But England, the punk rock scene in England in '85 was kind of dead. Like there were bigger shows, but like the underground scene, it was like there was no place to play.
Interesting,
And so we were there for a couple.
Sorry to interrupt. Had Fang been to Europe anytime previous to this, or this is okay? So y'all just toured America. That was like you just did the United States, okay?
And Canada. We did, U.S. and Canada a bunch of times, but never in Europe. So nobody heard of nobody heard of us.
Yeah. We're huge in Japan.
We're huge in Fresno. Everybody in Fresno loves Fang.
Right.
So we went to the UK, and also I smuggled like I had like 100,000 hits of acid that I'd smuggled with us, and so I'm selling acid. But other thing about selling acid in England in 1985 was everybody was fucking poor.
Yeah.
And so, like, everyone was on the dole.
Right.
Like, nobody had any money. So if anybody wanted to buy more than, like, one or a couple hits, I was scared because I assumed they were cops because like nobody had any
Right?
fucking
Yeah,
money.
like, I'll take one.
Yeah, and that's like fine. But if you ask for 10, I'm like, okay, who the fuck are
Yeah,
you?
right.
You know,
Who do you know?
Yeah, you know, it's like, are you a fucking cop? You know,
Right.
so after a couple months in England, we're like, dude, this is, you know, like either I'm gonna get busted,
Right.
or you know, and there's just like no place to play. So MDC had just toured Europe for the first time. And I got in touch with Dave, and I'm like, do you got any, you know, they just come back, and I
Right.
got in touch with Dave. I'm like, do you have any contacts in Europe? And he's like, call Arabella in Germany.
Okay.
And so I called Arabella in Germany. I'm like, hey, I got your number from Dave. I'm in this American punk rock band, and we want to come to Germany. And she's like, yeah, come on. And we went. She lived in Bremen, and we got there, and it was like everything just fell into place so well in Bremen for us. You know,
Right.
that you know, we stayed for like a year.
Right.
You know, and it you know, everything just it. I loved, like, the scene there was great. The you know, the kids there were you know, they had like a street gang, which ultimately they jumped me into, called the Outsiders, and we would fight the Nazis.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
They loved to drink and just get completely obliterated.
They like to drink in Germany, for sure.
Yeah, and they didn't care that I was, you know, they would help me sell acid, and they were all, you know, like they were, it was, you know, the Bremen punks, like they definitely became family, you know.
That's
And
cool.
it worked out. It was awesome. It was great time to be there.
That's cool. And you, did you record Spun Helga then, right around
Yeah.
that time? Like, okay.
Yeah, and the studio, it's so fucking cheap. I think we paid $300 to record a record at that time.
Actually, I remember him telling me that even for when you did Amigas Phosphos, am I pronouncing that right?
Yeah,
Amigas
Svafos.
What is that?
That's
Svafos?
give me Svafos.
Svafos.
It's Svafos. Yeah, it's give me head in Slovenian. So
You told me when you recorded that it was cheaper for you because I think you guys were back in America at that time,
yeah.
but because you had to leave Germany, right?
Well, no, I didn't. That was later on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was later on. I had
Jumping ahead
yeah.
too far.
Sorry.
But it was, and the studio was this guy, and he Jorg Zima. He was Culture Club's sound guy. Fuck. And so, you know, so they had all this Culture Club stuff, like there's a Boy George everywhere, and he had this studio in Bremen Nord, which is like north of Bremen, and you know, when Culture Club would go, he was like, you know, he was their sound guy, and he would always tour with them, and he was so cheap, he was such a great guy, you know.
That's awesome. Because I remember you telling me that it was at some point either you guys were back in America and you said it was cheaper to fly to Germany and record there than it was to record in America.
Yes,
and that's what you did. Amigas
yeah,
Phosphos
we did that.
Or whatever.
Yeah, we did Amigas Phosphos. We flew back. We recorded. We toured, and that was so we had our tickets to fly back to record Pissed Off Buddha.
Right.
And that's when, so we were in the U.S. and we had our tickets. We had like the recording set up. We had a tour set up, and that's when I got a phone call from my buddy. His name is Trio. Trio called me, and he's like, Astrid, my girlfriend, who'd been dealing for me now for years, had gotten busted, and her roommate had rolled. They knew that all the acid was coming from me, and so they were Interpol had been brought in. It was like they were waiting for me. To get off the plane because they knew everything, and so if Trio hadn't warned me, I would have like stepped off the plane in Germany and gone to prison there.
Yeah.
So that, but that was sort of the beginning of when things went horribly bad.
When did you guys end up recording? And we're going to get to that, but when you recorded "Pissed Off Buddha," which by the way is probably my favorite Fang record. I love that record. When I first met you, and we hit it off pretty good as buddies, and I remember we Billy Club toured again, and you let us stay at your place.
Yeah.
And you were like, "Here's a copy of this. It's an unreleased Fang album," and I was just like, "An unreleased Fang record?" Like, I fucking shit myself. And it's amazing. I don't know if you ever heard it, but it's fucking great. And could you do Spider-Man on there?
Right. Well, I really wish so. We recorded that, and by the time we recorded that, I was so strung out and so fucked off that and we never properly mixed it.
Yeah.
What we released later on were basically like the rough mixes we had. We remastered it as best we could because the tapes, Toby Rage was sitting on the tapes and somehow lost half of them. So I was gonna go back. I was gonna go back in the studio, and actually had all the tapes baked, and I was gonna remix everything, and half the tracks were gone.
Wow.
So I just had to run with what we had and mastered it as best we could. But I really wish we had. I was able to have, gone back. Redone some of the vocals because I was so strung out. So I know I could have done them a lot better than I did.
There's definitely some songs I can hear, like Mother Goose. The Mother Goose song, I can hear the cracking in the voice quite a bit. I've been there.
That song. It doesn't really matter.
I know it doesn't matter.
For that.
I mean, I've been relaxed. So I've been there, man. I've definitely had my bout with drugs as well. Like I was an IV drug user in the '90s for several years. It's tough to get out of that scene when you're in it, man. It's not an easy one.
I mean, I wish that we had that I had ended up with all the tapes and that I was able to have gone in because my plan was I was going to go back in, redo a lot of the vocals and remix the whole thing, and then Toby lost half the tapes, and it's just
but I'm actually pretty stoked you remastered and put it out because it is a great Fang record. Like, it's I mean, I've always telling you, like, any new recordings, like redo Rage of Angels, redo Only for a Minute, redo Stand and Fight. Like, I'm always like re-record them and put them out because they're great fucking songs, man. Like, they're great songs.
Who knows? I mean, maybe someday I will. I mean, I don't stop. That's I mean, that's there's certainly some of those songs which I wouldn't mind taking another run at. Some however many.
The cool thing is too, like a great song's a great song regardless of the quality of the recording at the time or any of that. You can still tell when it's just a really good fucking song anyway. At the end of Jack the Ripper, because that's the last song on there, and you could hear everybody in the studio just cracking up because you're just like blah, blah, blah. You can hear everybody just laughing, going, "That's great, dude!" Like it's just a great moment of like live recording, like
that song was recorded in Toledo, Ohio.
Wow. Okay.
So there was this guy, John Stain, and he was the local punk rock promoter in Toledo, and he went on to become like a politician. It got weird.
Yeah, things are gonna get weird.
Yeah, but he was like we came through Toledo a couple times, and he always took super good care of us. He's a rad guy, and it was like the second time we came through there. Earlier on that tour, I had been, I got busted in Texas. We were on our way to McAllen from San Antonio. I'm fucking dope sick. Yeah. We played in San Antonio with Fearless Iranians from Hell.
Great fucking band.
And we're driving. I'm sick, but I'm just back then I would kick on the road. I would just drink until. And then, the rest of the tour, I'd be good. The first couple of weeks, it'd be rough. But so I'm sick, and we get pulled over like in Atascosa County, Texas, middle of fucking nowhere.
Right.
A van full of punk rockers.
Yeah, in the
of course 80s. And they pull us out of the van. They've got us all on the side of the road. They're searching the van, and they found like a roach. And so they're like, okay, whose is this? Da 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 da. You know, they're fucking giving us the hard act. You know, and we're sitting there, nobody's saying anything, and it was actually our roadies, and I'm like, okay, if the roadie claims it, then you know we'll come back and get him, and we can make the show to McAllen. But I sat there and I'm like, none of these motherfuckers are gonna raise their hand. I'm like, fuck all y'all.
Yeah.
Fine. I said, fucking take me to jail. I'm like, I've been there before. Fuck you guys. Go fuck yourselves. So take me to jail. So they take me to jail. I'm fucking so I'm kicking in McAllen, Texas jail, like the county jail. And I was there we missed the McAllen show. I was there for 3 days.
Yeah.
In jail till they finally let me out. So they let me out. They gave me a court date, you know, and the court date was like a month away. So we get back on the road, you know, we go on tour. Well, I had told John Stain that, you know, like the night before, the night we played, I probably announced it on the fucking mic or whatever. I was like, so I was supposed to be in court in Texas today, and so I'm sure there's going to be a warrant out for my arrest tomorrow because here I am in Toledo, Ohio, playing some punk rock, whatever. Right? So the next morning, we had it set up. We were going to go and record that song and another song. John Stain had a studio. We stayed at his house, and we all went to breakfast the next morning, and we're sitting in this, you know, it's like a Denny's or, you know, some sort of a breakfast spot. And we're sitting in there. There's like, I don't know, there's like 10 punk rock kids.
Yeah.
And the door to this fucking diner opens, and in walks this like 6'5" guy in a fucking suit. He was probably 50-year-old man with a fucking bolo tie and a cowboy hat.
Right.
You know, and we're like, damn, look at fucking Tex over there, you know, and he walks in, you know, he looking like Clint Eastwood. He's surveying the fucking whole restaurant, stops at our table and walks directly over to our table, and he goes, I'm a Texas Ranger. Which one of you is Sam McBride?
Oh, fuck.
And everybody at the table were like, what the fuck? Yes,
not me. This guy.
Finally, I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? I get up finally. So I'm like, fuck, get up, turn around, like, fuck. Yesterday, how the fuck are you kidding me? I turn around, put my hands behind my back, and all of a sudden, him and John start fucking busting up. It was his dad.
Oh, jeez.
The promoter set up the whole fucking thing. Like, there's like, Dad, put your cowboy hat on. You gotta get up and fuck. That was the best. I don't think I've ever in life been gotten as good as that.
That's pretty fucking good. I mean, it
brilliant.
wouldn't surprise me if it was a Texas Ranger, right? For real. I mean, because Texas, you know, doesn't fuck around, but
it was brilliant. Anyway, so that was the morning. Then we went in and recorded.
Okay. Did you do Jack the Ripper? And did you do what's the song right before that? That's on that Lynch Mob.
Yeah, we recorded both those
Freeze.
songs.
That's where that comes from. Okay,
right. Freeze, Texas Ranger, because in the morning it had been So
I never knew that. I love learning new shit from you, dude. This is amazing.
Yeah, no, I have to take my hat off to John Stain because that is like, he got me so good that morning. You know?
So obviously that was starting to be the downfall of Fang and just your addiction and everything like that.
Yes, when things started getting real dark and real bad.
You committed a crime in '89, went to prison for it.
Right.
I'm not trying to breeze over that. If anybody wants to know, they can look your ass up. It's not like it's not, you know, out there.
No, and like I said, I'm always willing to sit down and have conversations.
Of course you are.
You know,
and there's obviously we've talked about it before. When I became pretty good friends with you, I was like, hey, like, you know, what the fuck happened? You were honest, told me what happened and everything. When you if you want to elaborate on that, you're more than welcome to.
I mean, I think everybody knows the history. I think one of the things that is that maybe people never ask me, but it seems like there's some idea that I don't have a problem with what I did.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that that's the thing that I struggle against the most. To think
I know that to not be true. I know that.
I have, if there's anything I could do to change what I had done, I absolutely would. I can't, and if anybody has an idea that I don't have a problem with what I did, I absolutely have a problem with what I did. And
I remember,
and I also, I know that I can't ever make right what I've done either. You know, that there's, you know, it's not like there's going to be redemption.
Sure.
You know, it's not like the scales will ever be balanced. You know, it doesn't work like that.
Of course. Yeah. I think probably one of my favorite things you've told me before is like, man, if I can stop one kid, this is part of your recovery as well. Because I want to get to that as well, because your recovery is very important to me. Because you've been, was it 17 years now?
16 years, 16
years. You
years.
just celebrated that kind of recently, right?
In October.
Okay.
October.
Congratulations, by the way.
Thanks.
You guys take that very seriously. I've seen Fang multiple times in this time period, and you guys like go to meetings. You guys do your steps. You guys do whatever you guys need to do to keep your asses clean. I respect the shit out of that. And addiction's a hard thing. It's not, you know, it's not something you're like, okay, I'm done. You know, it's
not
difficult.
for me at least.
No,
you know,
maybe for some people, but yeah.
Yes, I think if you are an addict, like the kind of addict that I was, that you have to be extremely vigilant.
Yeah,
you know?
And the thing that's interesting to me is that it depends a lot. It's a personality thing, part of it. Because like even for myself, I know myself enough that with certain things I can't dabble. I'm either it's like, how much of this do you want? Well, how much do you have?
Yeah.
And I know people that aren't like that. I know people that can do a bump or they can do this or that and they're fine, and then they don't touch it again for 5 more years. But like I'm aware enough of my own personality that if I start, I'm not going to finish until there isn't any more left.
Right.
So I just stay away from it altogether now, you know?
Yeah, it's true. It's like, what do you have? You having 2? I'll have 8.
Yeah.
You know, like that's the kind of guy I was, you know what I mean? So.
Right. And there are also people, you know, they don't have the horrific consequences.
Right.
That, you know, I mean, I had horrific consequences.
Yeah.
And should have had more horrific consequences, because I was, you know, the first time I got clean and sober was in prison, and that wasn't when I went to prison. That was after being in prison for years.
So you used for years when you got into prison.
And dealt drugs in prison, and I mean, and continued that lifestyle for years.
Well, you told me about prison a little bit because you were in San Quentin.
Yeah, that's. I started my prison career in San Quentin. San Quentin was, you know, this was in 1989, 90. You know, it was. I mean, I think I was there a week before. Like within the first week, I saw my first, you know, prison killing.
Yeah.
You know, a guy got his head crushed in with a barbell. You know, that I had been there about a month, and. My cellie and I, we threw a guy over the 4th tier.
Wow.
And he had been identified as a child molester.
Yeah.
And my cellie was an older convict who he basically ran things in that cell block for, you know, for us.
Yeah.
And so he's like, okay, we have a job to do. And, you know, stuff like that, you end up in prison doing a lot of things that I think most people definitely normally wouldn't do. And I think a lot of it has to do with it is such a dangerous place, and there's so much pressure to live up to a certain code.
Yeah, and to stay alive.
And if you don't follow along with the prison codes that you get killed, you get stabbed
pretty quickly.
Like and you also even more, or I don't know, worse, but you get victimized. You know, and that's even far more terrifying.
Sure, people divide big time by race and whatnot too, right? And that becomes a huge deal. Like you can't just nod and wink to a black guy if you're in there and stuff.
No,
like that.
no,
it's got to be separated too, right?
You have, I grew up in the East Bay. I mean, I had all kinds of different friends. There was certainly things.
Chris Wilson, your bass player.
Chris Wilson was the bass player. Fang,
black guy.
Skinhead Smoke Dope was, tongue in cheek. So, I get to San Quentin, and I was in San Quentin at the same time that my homie Dean was in San Quentin, and Dean's black, black kid from Oakland, punk rock kid from Oakland.
Wow.
We couldn't even, we could barely nod and even act as if we knew each other.
Wow.
Because it would put both our lives in danger. It was so. Now, I will say that years went by, and towards the end of my prison career, I was in Soledad, and I got into a writing class in Soledad, and there was a guy in there named James Ward. He's a black guy, and he and I became like super close in writing class. Now, we lived in the same cell block. Once again, we couldn't acknowledge each other's presence in the cell block. But the teacher,
you can, though, is it?
And teacher, the first time you go into that class, she sat everybody down. Like when they came into class first day, she goes, "If you can't leave your politics at the door, don't come back."
Sure.
And so it was actually a space where, we all were just trying to be better writers,
Sure,
and so James and I became good friends, and then some years later, we ended up on the Vacaville yard, and that was like the last 18 months. I'd been down for a number of years, and the Vacaville yard was the politics were a lot less strictly regulated.
Okay.
And also by then, I'd been down a number of years. I had a reputation. So I kind of did whatever the fuck I wanted, and I didn't really have to worry about repercussions there. And so I set up. It's a long story, but I was doing books on tape for blind kids.
Yeah, I remember you telling me that. Yeah.
And so I had James, and I had two other guys in there, and we would do. I'd rewrite the books like a radio play, like Cinderella, and everybody'd have characters, and we do sound effects, and so cool. We would do these books.
Are these available?
Tape. And I had smuggled some out, but I was just talking to one of my kids about this because, we had Ed Kemper did Stuart Little,
wow.
And it was just like so. But I don't know if the Blind Project still exists. Somebody just looked it up, so I think it's still maybe been archived. I have no idea.
I'd imagine these days with technology, it probably
if
it is archived, it's definitely somewhere.
Yeah.
It's somewhere in the bowels of Vacaville prison. But
no pun intended. Right.
But
Sorry,
to have that
do
relationship,
that.
like that I had with James. We did this whole thing together, and we hung out on the yard. We could, like I said, we couldn't even nod at each other in Soledad.
Yeah.
But in Vacaville, it was a medium security prison, and like politics were. Vacaville was like Disneyland, in comparison.
Compared to
comparison.
Still a dangerous place, but compared
Quentin.
to like Soledad and San Quentin and
San
stuff
Quentin,
like that.
it was like,
I would never know. I've never been into prison. I think I've spent like one night in jail and cried my eyes out for my parents to come get me. And that was for stealing a car. I mean, I've done some stupid shit and have never got caught a lot, but I remember just going like, I don't want to fucking be here, man. I don't want to fucking be here. You know,
No, I wish that had been my experience.
Sure.
I don't know why. I should have like the first time I got busted when I was 13.
Yeah.
I went to fucking juvenile hall in downtown Oakland.
Yeah.
I was fucking terrified, but apparently not enough to think, oh well, I should never do anything like that. That'll get me put back in there again. Yeah.
I think back then sometimes the consequences didn't seem as whatever. I'll just I'll just truck on and nothing will happen to me. You know what I mean? Like, of course, that's kind of a maybe typical kind of punk rock attitude as well back then. So it could have been
right.
But but your recovery is, like I said, it's an inspiration to me. I was still talking to Dave last episode about this. Like, I quit smoking weed like 3 or 4 months ago.
Oh yeah, and how's that
me.
going?
You know me, dude.
I know you.
Yeah. Me and Sam go back a little bit, but it's like, and the great thing is we met each other. We hit it off really good right away, like friends right away, man.
Just like right away.
It was so great, and you've been there for me when I needed to talk to somebody sometimes, and you've been there, and I appreciate that. But your recovery is definitely an inspiration to me. When I see you, when I go see Fang, when you come to Texas, we hung out in Austin to go see Dr. No, and we're hanging out with Nikki. I'm hanging out with Brandon Cruz, Sammytown, and Nikki Sicky from Verbal Abuse, and I'm just sitting there like, I'm just hanging out with all these motherfucking singers from back in the day. Like, not to be starstruck, but it's still kind of like, it's kind of a cool thing for me. You know what I mean? Because I'd been listening to you guys since I was like 13, and so to be there hanging out with these guys, who everybody's sober now,
right?
That's
Nikki's not sober.
Sober-ish.
He's sober-ish. Yeah.
Oh, sober-ish.
Nikki's one of my best friends, and he's definitely not as I shouldn't tell him Nikki's story, but he's definitely not rolling as hard as he used to.
I got you. I mean, some people take it their own way, man. Some people like, I need to quit all this shit. Some people are like, I'm going to go ahead and quit this and this and this.
Well, and like that was one thing about Nikki that that I loved. Like I got out of prison and then I started drinking again, and ultimately that led me right back to shooting heroin. And I was in Texas, and I was like running amok doing crime, and my crimey got busted, and luckily I didn't get busted. I should have gone back to prison in Texas, but I finally am like, when I finally was like really ready to kick, Nicky came. He came out to California, and he helped me. There was this woman, Jeep. You gotta wait. My dog's like, it's dinner time.
I kind of figured.
Nicky came, and this woman who always said, "I will help you get clean." She had this basement room. Yeah. And so Nicky and I boarded up all the windows in this basement room, and we put a deadbolt in the door, so you had to have a key to get out.
Right.
And Nicky babysat me while I kicked, and has been, very supportive of me staying clean.
Yeah.
And so I was best man at Nicky's wedding.
Yeah.
We have a long history. I love and he does his thing.
Sure.
And I did my thing, and but he was always supportive of regardless of what he was doing.
Man, that's a hardcore way to go through it. Just locked up in a basement for how long? Was it like a month or what?
Yeah, it was like a month. Yes, because I knew there was no way.
Yeah.
Like I had tried to stop many times before, and I without being locked up.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it.
So that's when I decided to get clean. I was 25. I turned 25 in rehab, but I realized I needed to be at a place where I was just locked down. Like I couldn't go anywhere. Now the place was like, you can leave, but you can't come back. And I wanted to get clean so bad, dude. Like I was over it. I had fucked up my first marriage, which is fine because now I'm married to the woman of my dreams. But I I wanted just to be clean. I just wanted to get back to being Woodard again. I just wanted to get back to just being the hyperactive Dave Woodard that everybody knew.
What?
Yes. Yes, I'm pretty hyper. And I had to be locked down. That first week, the physical aspect of it, it's hard to explain to people. It's hard to explain that your bones are on fire. You're pissing yourself. You're shitting. It's like it's gross. It's not a pretty picture.
No.
But even when you get through that part, your mind, because we're such good at manipulating people, it's like, oh no, I'm good now, man. Let me get out of here real quick. I just got to run to the store real quick. You know what the store is. I mean, it's
I do.
Like,
When they put me down, I mean, Nikki was not naive, but Janine, the woman whose house it was, I said, look, I'm going to tell you the house is on fire. I'm going to tell you I'm dying.
Yep.
I'm going to tell you got to take me to the hospital right now. I'm going to tell you anything to get you to let me out that door.
Unlock the door.
I said, you cannot believe anything I tell you. And she's like, well, for how long? I'm like, weeks. I mean, we're talking weeks here. You know, like it's going to be a long fucking time.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, you get good at manipulating people. You get good at lying to people, and you get people. You get good at people to sympathize with you when you're that way. You know? Even if they know for a fact, like this dude's up on drugs or this guy's a junkie, whatever, he'll steal my shit. You still, I think, drug addicts have a very good way of like getting people to feel sorry for them.
I mean, that's a lot of people's hustle, you know.
That is the hustle.
That is the hustle. Yeah, you know, and that, you know, certainly like manipulating and all that. So I also, I had tried to kick. So when I started drinking that night in San Diego, it was 8 years.
Yeah.
That I was, you know, I didn't start shooting dope right away.
I know, yeah.
That was probably about a year and a half after I started drinking that I started shooting dope. And I had it, you know, for me to really, it was years later before I just destroyed everything and was like, you know, on a crime spree in Texas before, you know, I got clean. But even at that time, I was still naive enough to think, all I have to do is kick, and I'm going to be okay.
Right.
You know, and kicking, you know, at that time I was like 41 years old. You know, kicking when you're 41 is not like kicking when you're 20. You know, and I had an 8-year run, which was a long fucking run, and I thought if I just kick, then I can get back to my life. You know, and after being in that basement room for a month, I came out and I was fucked off. You know, I was emotionally, spiritually, physically just completely fucked off. Like it took, you know, the first couple months just walking up a flight of stairs, I'd have to like I thought I'd fucked myself off physically, like permanently, you know, but it was just, it took a long time to recover, to get, you know, back to normal, you know.
Do you go to daily meetings or weekly, or what do you?
I go to a couple meetings a week, you know, and I pretty much do, you know, I just kind of do what everybody else. I do what other people tell me to do, and that was the
That's
big
a good woman.
problem.
You have a good woman.
That was my problem.
Yeah.
It's that, you know, I always thought, because of the places I'd been, the life I'd had, that I was a survivor.
Sure.
You know, and I thought, man, you know, like I was a survivor and I could trust myself to get me out or deal with any kind of situation. And it took me a long time to realize, like, wait a minute, no, you're not a survivor. You're the asshole who put yourself over and over in these horrific situations. Yeah. Like you're looking at it from the wrong side.
That's a lot of that's ego. You know what I mean? Like we have to let go of our ego sometimes and realize, like, no, I'm not this guy. I'm this fucking guy.
Right. I'm the asshole who keeps fucking myself over, put myself in
like, I always bounce
horrible.
back, but that's because I'm always fucking myself.
Yes. So I got to the point for me where I stopped trusting myself. Right. And once I stopped trusting myself, then things changed.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
and once I stopped trusting myself and just started listening to other people and doing what other people told me to do, you know, things changed miraculously.
Well, I'm glad
what
you
was
did.
what was the time frame then? Was it how long after that did you start getting into the sober house and helping other people out also?
So it was a few years. I think probably maybe 4 years after I was able to stay, because it took me to, even after I came out of that basement, there was I would like go a month, I'd be good, and I'd get loaded for a day, you know, and I was doing a lot of meetings and everything, but it took me a year and a half before I could stay sober, before I could stay clean.
Yeah.
And so after that, it was probably, I think, around 4 years or so before I opened up the sober house for men in Oakland. Yeah. You know, and
That's
and
good.
that was.
Did you do that? Like, do you think you did that because of just to help obviously to help other people out because you've been there, you've done that, but to maybe help yourself out to like.
I think it absolutely benefited me. You know,
Yeah.
it kept me super plugged in. You know, and very much involved. You know, I would probably at some point, given the opportunity, do that again.
Yeah.
You know, and the reason that we shut down, I had a business partner in the sober house for men, and he was in recovery like I was, and he started getting loaded. You know,
Yeah.
and so we went back and forth, and we're still friends. He's actually clean again, but after a while, he was struggling for a couple of years, and so after a while, it was just I know he wanted out, and it was super stressful to have. And also not the best branding for a company.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. So what company do you have? So anyway.
Yeah. So that, but at some point I would definitely consider doing that again.
Yeah.
You know, that
That's cool, man.
that was something. And the other job that I'm not currently doing, but actually I at some point will get back into, but I worked as a domestic violence counselor.
That's really good.
And went through the Duluth training model, and worked doing that for some time. And to be honest, because I've worked also as a drug and alcohol counselor,
Right.
And in rehabs, and I honestly really like and feel that my calling was more, that with doing domestic violence work.
I think that's great. I really do. I think that also probably helps you a little bit, with some past stuff. I mean, it's I'd imagine.
In the training and in working with guys too, there's because it's looking at looking at society and toxic masculinity, misogyny, all the things that contribute to men that commit violence against women.
Right.
And so I was constantly learning stuff.
Yeah.
And
well, knowledge is power, man.
It is, and it's also just a good so at some point I think I will probably get back into doing that kind of work.
Yeah. I think that's great. I respect the shit out of that, man. I mean, that's just that's why I've always encouraged you to write a book, because you've done a lot, you've been through a lot, you've caused a lot, you know what I mean, you've kind of gone full circle a couple times. And
hopefully enough times.
Yeah, enough times. I'm getting dizzy now,
Yeah. Yeah.
But that says a lot about you, man. And I love the shit out of you, dude. I'm so glad you did this interview with us, man.
I love you too, bro. I'm honored, and it's it's always good. I'm glad that we got to hang out not that long ago.
Yeah, I had a great
Texas.
time, man.
That was a blast. And
I was so stoked to tell you that we'll do it smoking weed. Sam's gonna be stoked. Like, been smoking weed. Like, I'm not a big, you know me. I'm not a big drinker. Like, I'll have a beer every now and then, but like
every now and then.
But I'm not a big drinker. But it's like now the weed thing. Like, I'm fucking.
And how's that going? Is it are you is it? Do you feel
No, I feel great. I feel amazing. Like even after the first week, I was like, man, I feel fucking good. Like, because I was always a bong ripper guy, so it's like my chest was killing me, dude. Like, my voice was, you know what I mean? Like, I just like coughing all the time. But just being clear-headed. I told you before, like, nobody told me that reality was such a fucking trip. Nobody fucking told me. You didn't tell me, Sam.
You smoked weed every fucking day forever.
I know, dude, since 9th grade, dude. I'm telling you, man. Like, I'm telling you, dude. Like, and I'm not saying I'm done for good or whatever like that, but for right now, I feel fucking great. And I don't. Well,
and also, it's
I don't
probably
miss
real good
it.
for your
I don't.
lungs,
Yeah, that's. I mean, you're still inhaling fucking smoke. It's not like it's not good for you. I don't give a shit what people say, but just being clear-headed for me has like been, I mean, I'm running a business now. We got the tattoo shop I'm running, man, and it's like you gotta be on your toes, man. Like, I didn't
you're
realize
a busy guy. Yeah.
And even my wife Melissa, she's not smoking either, man.
Wow,
and,
that's awesome.
She didn't smoke as much as I did. She'd always complain that I smoked too much, and I did. But and I listened to her. Trust me, got to have the one to listen to. But and it's not. I don't miss it. I don't know. It's hard to explain, dude. Like, and for somebody who's been smoking weed for that long, and I've got nothing against it or anybody who does. Like, I mean, you could do fucking blow. I don't give a shit, man. It's not me.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like,
that's also like if people go do what the fuck you want to do.
Exactly, man.
If it gives you a lot of problems, if if it makes your life hell or other people around your life hell, then call me and I can and I'll do whatever I can to help you out. But if you can do blow, shoot heroin, whatever, like fucking Booth K. I don't give a shit,
Booth and K? I've never heard of this. I might have to try this.
You have to write that down. Hold on a second.
Yeah, thank you, man. Write that down, will you? No, I agree. Like, it's like, do it as long as you're not hurting people. You're obviously going to harm yourself in a certain kind of way, no matter what you do. If you're doing any kind of drugs like that, these kids today, they're all into this fentanyl shit. I told you the story.
And that is far more dangerous.
Absolutely,
because people die.
I hope we have, as a guest, I would love to have my friend April. I'd found her son in his car.
Oh, wow, yeah.
I remember I told you that. He passed away in his car.
Yeah.
And she has turned this into a very negative thing, into a positive thing. She goes and speaks at rehabs and outpatient places.
That's awesome.
And
that's awesome.
It does. It's been helping. I can tell that it's been helping her a lot. And this past holidays was the first holidays without her son.
Oh, man.
And
shit,
it's tough, man. And she lives 8 doors down from me, man.
Yeah.
And this is a woman I've seen at the gyms for the last 5-6 years. You kind of build an acquaintance with people that you just, hey, what's the nods, and then you end up talking to them, and you end up getting to know them a little bit. And that was a rough day, man. And I most certainly know that was just life-changing for her, obviously. I'd like to have her on the show for anything about recovery. That would be really cool. But one great thing, Sam, is like when we do talk about past like drug use or anything like that, you're not encouraging it, but you're not like super like, that was blah blah. It's like, I mean, there was time periods where I had fucking fun. Like, I'm not gonna lie, like.
Yes, no, I am not the kind of person that would say, it's like, but I definitely had a lot of fun, and then I had a lot of consequences.
Yes, they usually follow the fun.
Yeah,
for some people, but I also know that there's a lot of people I know that have partied, that are our age, and they don't. They just have a different relationship, with drugs and alcohol than I have. That
is true. Everybody's different. I just recently I was scanning through your Instagram page, and I saw a picture of you and Jack from TSOL. And Jack's been in recovery since '89.
Yeah, he's been.
I mean,
sober for a long time,
and he's great because he's upfront about all that shit too, man. Like he's a really cool. And I talked to him. He agreed to be on the show as well. So hopefully I have an interview with him too. Yeah,
he's a character too.
He is a character.
He's funny as fuck. He really is.
But that's what I kind of dig about like a lot of my old like, you know, I'd say hero, but punk rock heroes from back. It's like you guys are so like you guys are just there. Like you're not recluses. You know what I mean? Like you're like.
You're not hiding from.
You're not high. Yeah, you're just like you hang out in the crowd. You hang by the merch booth. Like I go see Agnostic Front. Those guys, they're hanging out. Hey, what are you doing? You know what I mean? They're all.
Well, and that's what punk rock, at least for me,
right.
was about. And you know, it's like there were no fucking rock stars.
Yeah.
There were none of that shit. It's like that was one of the things that I loved about punk rock.
Yeah.
You know, that it was like we were all the same. Didn't fucking matter.
We still carried on. That's what I love about it. Well, Sam, man, thanks for doing this with us, dude. I appreciate you, dude. I love the shit out of you,
love
man.
you, bro.
And,
fucking hopefully I will see you soon. Thanks for having me on, Dave. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, likewise, man, for sure.
So we're gonna
we haven't had any political discourse yet, but we're gonna have it here soon.
Yeah,
we're gonna have it here soon.
We'll send you a link to that one.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Because me and Dave don't see eye to eye. So the reason why we want to start the show is because we wanted to show people that. I mean, there's a lot of subjects we wanted to touch base on, but we wanted to show people that we can could have differences with people. Yeah. And not block the lead and hate you and you're a Nazi and you're a commie and you're
No, I think that's super valid and super relevant and super important because like
the thing that
it's
go
gonna
ahead, sorry.
The separation is going to just make things worse.
Right.
You know,
It is.
The
and that one of
polarization.
One of the things that really pulled us together to do this is that we agree on the fundamental thing we agree on is that almost everybody wants the same thing. You want your family to be safe. You want to be able to go to the store and not get held up. You want want your good paying job, good education. It's just some people have a different roadmap to get there, but that shouldn't be a relationship ender either.
Yeah.
Where if you want the same shit, but you've got different ideas how to get there, talk about those ideas and maybe even argue about them, but have the discourse.
Yeah.
Yes. No, I agree, and that makes me really excited to keep watching you guys because I definitely would love to see people that have differing opinion really talk about it instead of just like have real discourse. Like I said, for me, if you've got an issue with me, let's fucking sit down and talk about it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I'm going to change your mind. You're not going to maybe change my mind. But let's, the only way we're going to move forward is if we actually sit and talk.
Yeah.
Is to have
the human way. It's the best way to
Respect
be.
each other on a human level, and the rest is fucking details. That's it,
Yeah.
All right,
Exactly.
Sam. Thanks for coming on again, brother. I love you, man.
All right.
I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Love you too, bro. You guys take care.
Later.
Well, that was awesome.
Okay. So now you just make it go away.
Yeah, go away.
All right, no, I do have to go. Thanks, you guys. I fucking appreciate it. Dave, keep me posted whenever it's going to come out, and I'll share the shit out of it. And, and let's talk soon.
Yeah, man, soon. All right, brother. Be safe. Love you, man.
All right, love you, bro.
Yeah, so that's Sammytown.
That was fucking amazing.
Wasn't it?
That was really cool.
Yeah, it's obviously ran over more than what we wanted to do, but I guess when you get to talking about, especially Sam's life, he's got a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
It's kind of...
And we talked about this, too, even before the first episode, and I think we touched on it last week, is that some topics might take 35, 40 minutes, but you don't want to cut off a natural conversation you're having either, so some might go a little long like this one did, and that's cool, too, because it's natural, and you kind of get to wrap it up, and we're not stuck to it's got to be 50 minutes every week no matter what. You know? So,
and I think we're trying to keep it super, like, organic and natural as well, because... a lot of people may not know. It's like we've known each other for years, been acquaintances for years, but we don't really know each other.
Right.
In fact, I think through this podcast, we're actually getting to know each other.
Exactly.
Which is awesome.
That's cool.
And I think that shows just like a natural progression of a friendship. Although we were friends before, but you know what I mean? Like to really get inside each other's head, to really know each other, instead of like these scripted fucking things and like that. And I'm not harking on anybody's other podcasts or anything like that. They do what they're going to do, but I think the more natural you keep it, the better. And I think it shows people that, okay, well, these guys are really, they're not bullshitting. They're just talking off the cuff.
And that's why I go, future topics that we've already kind of mapped a few out.
Yeah.
We made the agreement.
Yeah.
We're going to agree on this is the topic for the next episode, and we're not going to talk to each other about our opinions on it.
Yes. We're going to argue next time, goddammit.
Yeah, we are.
We got a list of shit I think we're going to argue about. And I'm looking forward to that. I mean,
yeah, me too.
As we... And first of all, I appreciate everybody who watched the first episode and or listened to the first episode and gave us like thumbs up. I appreciate you guys just tuning in. I mean, because this has been really fun, and it's been an eye opener for me too. Like I don't know. I just think it's something that we've been kind of wanting to do for a while, and
yeah.
I think we're doing it, man.
And then as we roll, I'll add more flair in the video and audio. But I produce and engineer another podcast, but it's a much different animal. Engineering it while I'm also trying to talk.
You tried to figure shit out, like
so the first few episodes are just going to be a camera, and there'll probably be multi-cameras later and add more stuff in it. But at the end of the day, it's two people just talking about shit. So the tech stuff doesn't even really matter.
Exactly, and it's like if they're interested in the subject matter, they'll stay tuned.
Yeah,
or they'll watch part now, part later, like whatever you want to do. But it's like. We do appreciate everybody like tuning in and watching and giving thumbs up and giving your opinions and stuff like that. That matters to us a lot. But I think at this point we're going to go and sign off. Man.
Yeah, let's do it.
Good talking, brother. All right. Take care. Bye, everybody. And I'll get the fuck broke shield. And I'll just sit and grin. The money will roll right in. And I would give you some if you only would have treated me nice. And you wish that you did. You'll feel pretty stupid. And I'll just sit and grin. The money will roll right in. Just sit and grin. The money will roll right in. It's fun to be a star. It's nice to have a car. Yeah, you'll have to admit that I'll be rich as shit. And I'll just sit and grin. The money will roll right in. The money will